Hey class. So I did my service learning project at Centaurus High School. And every summer there are specific teachers at Centaurus High School that spend 2 weeks with incoming freshmen who are at a lower risk of graduating. And I think just historically they basically cold call a lot of kids' parents who they know might be around for the summer and who might need a little extra guidance making that transition from 8th grade from middle school to high school. They spend these 2 weeks giving them background information on what the transition from middle to high school will be like, as well as create relationships with the students so that they utilize the specific teachers that are there as supports. And my role within this program was to be of assistance to these teachers and be just another face for the students to know when they start in the fall. I volunteered on the day that they took students climbing outdoors. And most of these students are in the lower income bracket of the students that go to Centaurus High School. So their access to sports that require expensive gear like skiing, climbing, mountain biking, all the things that people find really popular in Colorado is limited. So this day requires that students trust the educators around them, which is a pretty loaded statement. As well as step out of their comfort zone as they climb up a 30-foot wall. So this relates to human development in a lot of different ways. But for the sake of the project, I'll pick a couple of theories that connect to why this work is important to the students' continued development as students and as adolescents. Most of the students that are served in this program are raised in households whose culture is different than mainstream America. So their values can often vary from the values of the school system, as much as they don't realize it projects onto these students. Additionally, the way in which learning is done in these families, native country versus how they are done within the walls of Centaurus High School, differ. So this puts a lot of responsibility on these adolescents to be self-starters and to learn differently than their parents have taught them in the initial years of life. So a lot of these students grew up in within the education system and got a lot of scaffolded help on things or were put in programs to help better their language skills, their English language skills. But the problem with these programs is that maybe not problem, but the ways in which these programs have an opportunity to grow is that these students see their level of English as a detriment rather than the fact that they're mastering a second language above a lot of their other peers. And so their confidence is just diminished because they receive all this scaffolded work, the scaffolded help. And so they're super dependent on their teachers for answers. And they're never given the freedom to kind of come to a conclusion on their own in a way that might be different than a lot of the other students with American-centric cultures, right? And so there's a couple theorists that came to mind when doing this kind of analysis. And the first one was Malinowski's ethnography and discussion on how Westernization threatens students' autonomy in their own culture. So, like I stated earlier, students are told that their ability to speak and read English is the measure of their intelligence, right? So rather than looking at the bilingual skill set and ability to relate across cultures as an asset to the classroom, the students, without the educators knowing it, are slowly being stripped of their confidence in the fact that their ability to see things from two different lenses is an asset and could be utilized as a platform to enrich other students in the classroom and also make them feel empowered. And so they have been basically stripped of their confidence and ability to grow and nurture these skills as strengths because their level of English is what their level of intelligence is measured by, whether educators recognize that. And also, if Piaget is correct This, in his schema of assimilation and accommodation, these students have been assimilating more to how they believe their teachers want things done, rather than being given some freedom to accommodate on their own based on their trial and error experience. And so that makes things like climbing a 30-foot wall is a very foreign concept to them, where they are just looking around, either being like, there's no way I'm going to do this, there's no way I can do this, is sadly what a lot of them think, or that they just are looking for help every step of the way, because those skills and that confidence at this stage in their life between 8th grade and 9th grade have now been diminished enough so that they're very, very dependent on educators in their life to kind of like help pull them along, because at a young age they weren't given that the praise or the autonomy to kind of explore things the way that made sense to them, right? What did I learn? Why it's important and what I will do because of it. So through this process, I learned how to connect theories to why students act from the place that they do on a daily basis. To be clear, I don't want to classify these students or project theories onto their experience, but as school districts love data and proven results, using these theorists' approach to development to put words to why these students have difficulty being engaged or don't have as much of an interest going to class can be argued in ways that reflect our instruction rather than their true ability to learn. So I see a lot in the classroom or at school, right, that these are the students that are getting suspended or ditching class or doing some interesting extracurricular activities during lunch, and they're stigmatized. But we don't spend enough time reflecting on how things like spending time with these kids during the summer for 2 weeks, helping them learn new skills, can be an empowering moment for them. What will I do about it? I think I'll do my best to use these theories and realizations to invite teachers and other staff into these conversations in an effort to highlight students' strengths and vary how teachers' instructions and how admin discipline depending on circumstance. Although we wish that we could standardize across the board with all students, more research is supporting that since each student has a different cultural background, that it is becoming more and more effective if we wish to impact a larger number of students. That was in short. But yeah, I hope to hear your thoughts so I can kind of continue to build on this momentum. Thanks.